This is an extract from the Leader Coronavirus Daily podcast by the Evening Standard and hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for it on your podcast provider.
Enjoying.
Will we ever have a scene like this again? Joining our friends, our family, and enjoying a meal in a restaurant. It was a simple pleasure, an occasional treat, wiped out by coronavirus. At the start of this lockdown, they all had to close their doors, but now it's maybe time to think about what happens when they reopen them. Has the restaurant business changed forever? I'm joined by Michelin-starred chef Jason Atherton, whose restaurants include Pollen Street Social in Mayfair and quite a few others around the world. And exactly like a chef should be doing, he's having his lunch at the moment. And Jason, I'm sorry to interrupt, but thank you for speaking to me. Now, if I was a customer when you closed the doors at the start of this pandemic, and then I came back on the first day you opened, how different would things be?
Until we're given the guidelines from the government, we have no idea. What are those guidelines going to be? Are they going to be plastic plexi screens between tables? Is it going to be 2 meters, which is impossible? You can't run a central restaurant in Mayfair with the amount of rent, business tax, VAT, all that type of stuff you've got to pay, staff costs, and get to a point where you can break even at least and keep people in jobs with 2 meter distance in between tables. It's impossible. But could you make money, or could you break even with 2 meters if the government step in and say, right, you're going to pay a turnover rent, there's going to be a reduced VAT or no VAT, there's no business tax for 2 years, and support our industry to a point where we've got a chance of going back into our businesses and offer the same standard of food and service we did before at the same price point with help from the government. Because also, right now, I'll tell you the truth. If I go back to my restaurants, I employ 450 people. Can I employ 450 people when I go back? I don't know. Because logic tells you if social distancing comes in and I can only cater for 50% of our clientele, I can only afford to pay 50% of the staff. What happens to the other 50%? There's going to have to be some added furlough scheme for the rest of the staff because we can't face mass unemployment.
How does a waiter work with social distancing? How does that happen?
So we're already doing a Zoom meeting with our teams talking about how we serve wine from a distance. Before, you would have a sommelier, you'd choose your wine, the sommelier would come, he or she would stand over the table, and you'd be very interested for 5 minutes, having a wine briefing about where the wine was, the winemaker, what it tastes like, the notes you pick up, and it's almost like a little mini lesson in 5 minutes. Well, that can't happen anymore. So, little guideline tables, what are going to be a meter and a half away from the guests, where we present the wine, we choose it, we talk about it, and we then either leave it there. So we give the guest a choice. Would you like us to leave it here and you collect it yourself? Or would you like us to put it on the table and walk away? And people will self-pour their wine, I believe, till we get a vaccine. I think that's going to be the same with water. I think also the same for food. We will take the food to the carry-on table, leave it a meter and a half away from the table. If the guests want to pick it up themselves, then we'll advise them to do that. If they don't, then we will put it down and walk away.
Of course, the atmosphere in restaurants is so important. Are you worried that with social distancing measures, you're going to lose that in your restaurants and bars?
Right. We've got one of Soho's most successful cocktail bars, Blind Pig. And if you go in there, why'd you go? Because it's packed. There's a queue outside to get in, right? Of course, the cocktails are good. They're fairly priced. They're inventive. Staff are great. But if it's not packed, why are you going there? Who wants to sit in an empty bar? Nobody. So it's that whole process of getting the balancing act right, of not damaging your business because you're not offering the same experience you did, and it's in people's memories. Because when they go back, if there's plexi screens there, everyone's wearing masks, gloves, disinfectant sprays everywhere. You're like, oh my God, what's happened? And that's your last memory of that restaurant.
Here's a big question, Jason, but I think it's quite an important one. What is London without restaurants?
I've been in London now since the age of 16. Moved here from Skegness. I washed pans because I was so obsessed by restaurants. I washed pans in a restaurant in Kensington for about 6 months until the chef would give me a job. Stayed with him for a couple of years. worked my way through some of the best restaurants in the country. I still remember in 1991 when we hit the recession then, and restaurants like La Le Coin on Queenstown Road went bust. Amazing chefs going bust. And I couldn't compute why they were going bust. I didn't really understand the financial implications of it all, because all I cared about was going to work, preparing my red mullet and cooking it for a guest, right? But now I'm much older and I've been through, a financial crash in 2008, 2 recessions. You start to understand the workings of how the world works. And back in 91, Londoners didn't really eat out as much as they do today. It was more special occasion. There wasn't as many great restaurants. Now, London is absolutely inundated with incredible restaurants from East London all the way to the West. And I think if we have to let go of that, it would be a crying shame, because I genuinely believe this. And I work all over the world, and I'm not just saying it, that London is the greatest city in the world. And Londoners are hardened people. I absolutely adore my city. And to think that we would lose our restaurants, or it would recede back to the doldrums of the 1990s, would be horrific. Where right now you could go, not right now, but pre-coronavirus, you could go to East London and eat amazing Ethiopian cuisine. You could have most amazing Chinese food, Japanese food, British food. Go back to East London. The pie and mash was just about to start having some massive resurgence, and celebrities going to East London to eat pie and mash. And I just think, my God, we're on the crest of this incredible food wave, and drinks and cocktails. I mean, our cocktail bars are some of the best in the world. I just pray every day we don't lose that, because if we lose that, I think London loses its soul. I really do.
Search for the Leader Coronavirus Daily on any podcast provider to hear more from the podcast.